You are listening to the Keep the Weight Off podcast with Dr. Angela, episode number 26.
Welcome to the Keep the Weight Off podcast, where we bust all the dieting myths and discover not just how to lose weight, but more importantly, how to keep it off. We go way beyond the food, and we use science and psychology to give you strategies that work. And now your host, Dr. Angela Zechmann.
So welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Marshall is back. And so I'm super thrilled that you're back with us, Marshall. We had a couple of podcasts where you weren't there because you were off on vacation. And I went on vacation a little while ago too. And we're noticing lots of our patients and lots of our students and clients in Journey Beyond Weight Loss have been off on vacationing. And, what I have to say about that is it's really easy to get off track on vacation. And we hear this story over and over and over again because we're not on our usual routines when we're on vacations. You're sort of at the mercy of what you can find. You're not really planning your meals or timing your meals. And so staying on track becomes a lot more challenging. And, frankly, a lot of times we might just decide that we want to have a few vacation splurges. So, and the other thing that happens is all of the things that you do when you're at home to keep yourself sort of mentally stable. So, for example, getting a good night's rest, getting regular exercise, those kinds of things sort of fly out the window too. And so then you don't have that stability that you need to be able to make good decisions. So, and Marshall, you turned 50 in Mexico this month. That is so cool.
Sure did.
Yeah.
Hi, so, by the way, I'm back.
Yeah. So if you guys want to wish her a happy birthday in the comments, feel free. That is awesome. So Marshall, what was your vacation like? I mean, gosh, you must have had a great time.
It was amazing. So we went to Mexico, went to Cancun. So my youngest son also graduated from high school, 2021, and I turned 50 a few weeks after that. My husband's birthday is also on the same day as mine, but he's a little younger, so he didn't celebrate so hard for him. No, I'm just kidding. So it was amazing. What we did was we did an all-inclusive resort, and we stayed there for 5 days. And I don't know if anybody else has been, to these all-inclusive resorts. There's like 11 restaurants. All the cocktails and sodas and whatever you can drink for free. They even had a Starbucks that you could have, as much, frappuccinos and coffees and Starbucks goodies as you'd like.
Wow.
And so I didn't know what I was getting myself into just because I'd never been to an all-inclusive resort. And before I left, in my mind, I was doing pretty good before we left. But in my mind, I thought, okay, well, I'm sure they're going to have lots of, healthy options. And I was really determined to, make healthy choices and also even talk to Dr. Angela before. I think we even did like a little bit of
we did a podcast on vacation planning.
About like prepping. And so first things first that happened is just getting to the airport. It was super early in the morning. And the only thing that was open, and we all got hungry. And the only thing that was open was like McDonald's.
At the airport?
Yes. So that was like the first mistake, I guess, that we made was we were just hungry. We didn't bring snacks. We didn't really think about that. And so we ate McDonald's. And right there, I mean, I did not feel good after I ate that. I was already nervous about getting on the plane, and it just put me into a funk. I just felt super heavy and kind of nauseous and all that good stuff. So we get to Mexico and we get into our resort and we realize like how much food is there. I mean, it's just mostly about laying by the pool and then eating. Places. And everywhere you turn was like a taco bar, or taco station, a burger station, Asian restaurants, just food everywhere. And like I said, and
Wow.
bars everywhere. As a matter of fact, the first station that I ran into was a crepes bar that they're making, and it was just all the sweet stuff that you could want. Um, and that was like a huge temptation for me. But
Mm.
anyway, so we get there and
Mm.
they have this humongous breakfast buffet. I mean, it was so huge that you could barely see the end of it. And I know that they had all of the right choices there.
Yeah.
My intention was to, just have the protein and the eggs.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know what happened. I ran into the French toast bar.
Yeah. Oh
And
gosh.
I thought, okay, well, I could just do a little bit and I'll also eat some protein, I'll also eat some eggs. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what happened. I don't know if that's maybe what triggered like the the cravings or whatever for carbs. Plus they
Mm-hmm.
had 24-hour room service. You can order anything you want from room service.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm not sure if it was so much like wanting the bad foods. It was more just like maybe wanting to experience what we were experiencing and getting your money's worth. That was in my head. I'm gonna get
Yeah.
my money's worth.
Yeah.
So I did pretty well. I can't say that, I did really bad. I didn't opt for, all of the crappy foods and I didn't drink. See, that's another thing that is an issue for me is not only do I crave, you know, flour and sugar, but also, I like to drink.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the thing for me.
Yeah.
But anyway, and like I said, okay, so at first, I was doing pretty good. And
Mm-hmm.
then, when I got this in my head, like I want to get my money's worth, it was
Yeah.
sort of like game on. I mean, even they had a
Oh,
sushi bar, and in my mind, I was thinking, okay, sushi's not really that bad. But if you think about it, I mean, there's a lot of carbs and rice. And
right.
so just little by little, I could tell that I mean, by the second day or maybe the third day, I was really starting to feel like bloated. I think there might have
Mm-hmm.
been a lot of salt in the food. When
Mm-hmm.
it was so hot there and so humid that we were sweating a lot. When you're swimming in that really, really salty ocean, you just get
Mm-hmm.
really dehydrated really fast. And I think
Yeah.
that I might have started retaining water. Um,
Mm.
and then on my birthday, so I didn't drink at all. I
Oh,
was like, I'm
okay.
not going to drink. Maybe I'm going to splurge a little bit on some food, but I'm
Okay.
still going to do the best that I can. And then on my birthday, we were sitting down at the cabana, and my son said, "Well, I'm going to go check out the party pool and see what that's like. We haven't been over there yet." And we could hear music, thumping in the background. And I thought, oh, okay, I'm
Mm.
going to go over and check it out too. So the minute that I jumped into the party pool, there was a party going on and everybody was drinking and dancing and there was people from all over the world there and they were saying hi. They're super friendly people. And
I'm
they
sure they
were
were with
asking,
all that alcohol.
oh yeah, and you're right. They're asking a question. I'm like, oh, it's my 50th birthday. And then it was,
Oh,
get her a drink of this and get her a drink of that. And people, and here we're all going to do shots. And so I just really got caught up in the moment.
yeah.
And, at that moment, I didn't really think, anything of it because
Uh-huh.
I had been being good, so
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I play these tricks with my mind that if I deprive myself for a little while, it's okay to do it for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So
All brains think of all kinds of rationalizations. So
yeah, plus
yeah.
it was fun and I wanted to
Yeah.
celebrate my
And it was
birthday
your
and it
50th
was,
birthday. Yeah.
yeah, it was a once in a life opportunity. I probably would never
Yeah.
come back here again. And, I was meeting
Yeah.
like super wonderful people and we were dancing um, and then we went home. Um, we didn't stay out too late. Went back to the hotel and went to sleep and got up the next day. And then the next day after that, I could really feel how dehydrated I was getting. And,
Mm.
um, and that's kind of what made me just start to think, okay, I need to start to replenish, with some water and some protein
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot. So, anyway, it was a great vacation. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't do horribly. In my mind, I don't think I did horribly because I always tell
Mm-hmm.
myself this, you could have done a lot worse.
Right. Yeah.
Which is a dangerous thing to tell yourself because it gives your mind permission to slip or splurge.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so then
Hmm.
that's, then we came home, and the first couple of days that I got home, I don't know, I felt like I felt bloated, didn't have any energy.
Mm.
After we went on vacation for the week, my husband also took a 1 week off after that to stay home to quarantine just because we thought it was the right thing to do. So we were
Yeah.
stuck at home. And even when we got home, we both started craving, a bag of chips or a burger or just things that we knew we shouldn't be eating. We're like, oh man, now we're in trouble because
Yeah.
now we sort of on that the carb craving
And how
problem.
many times have we heard this story in the office? It's like, I
So
was
many
doing
times.
so great, and then I went on vacation. And
Yeah.
then you come home from vacation, and it's like, God, it feels like moving mountains trying to get back on track after vacation. Like, what's up with that?
I do notice a lot of people that we won't see for a couple months, that
Yeah.
restart will say, I'd been on vacation and I couldn't get back into the swing of things, and I didn't want to come in because, I felt bad, and
Mhm.
I can't find the motivation, to get back where I was before vacation. And that's where people get stumped and frustrated, and,
Yeah.
they get down on themselves. And I do, and in the past I've done that too.
Mhm. Yeah. 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 So then the question becomes, okay, well, how do you get back on track after you've been on vacation? And like, what kinds of things would we recommend for getting back on track after vacation? And well, the first thing is you want to like don't even bother weighing yourself because remember
Yeah.
we had a podcast episode. I can't remember which episode number it was, but it was about the scale and how inaccurate it is. And when you're traveling, you will retain water. And
Yeah.
so if you get on your scale before you leave for vacation and you get on your scale when you come home, there's likely going to be a weight gain, and it may or may not be fat. It could just be you retaining water from having been, especially if it's even if it's a car trip. I was going to say, especially if it's an airline trip, you're going to have more chance. But I think cars do this to people too. It's just you just end up retaining a lot of water. So you just don't really, and you haven't gotten on the scale. I mean, have you?
No, I didn't get
Yeah,
on this. I mean, I have some skills. My biggest issue is trying to get my brain to want to get motivated again. But
exactly.
I do have
Yeah.
skills, in the meantime. I knew not to get on the scale because I am aware that, the 5 pounds or whatever the bloating, that I'm experiencing is probably water weight, and to give
Hmm.
myself a little bit of time to,
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
So I started beefing up the water, drinking a
Yeah.
lot more water once I got home.
Yeah. So, what do you think is more important to address when you are struggling with, getting back on track after vacation and you want to get back on track, but it feels like it's really hard? Do you think it's more important to address what you're eating, or do you think it's more important to address what you're thinking? What
Oh,
would you say?
100% what you're thinking.
What you're thinking.
Hmm.
What are you thinking about all of this? So let's say that you are like Marshall and me, and you're struggling to get back on track after your vacation, and you've been home for a while, and you're noticing that like the cravings are just really really bothering you. Like you find yourself succumbing to these cravings, and you know that you need to make a plan, and you need to get to the grocery store. But right now, that feels like it's just like pulling teeth. It just feels really, really hard to do. And you know that deep down, if this continues, you're going to gain a bunch of weight back. And you could end up getting sick with obesity again. Remember, obesity is a disease. And so you could start having some of those symptoms of the disease again, the arthritis symptoms and the irritable bowel and the the gastric symptoms and the brain fog and all that stuff that people suffer with so much. And, we're talking about how to handle slips in Journey Beyond Weight Loss this week in the online course and membership. And because, it's important to understand we're all going to slip on this journey, whether you had a slip or a splurge. So I just want to make sure all of our podcast listeners know the difference. We never use the word cheat around here because we don't diet. So we sometimes will slip back into old habits, and that's something that's not planned, and you just find yourself doing that. And then there are times where you decide you want to have a splurge. I think a 50th birthday party is a perfectly good reason to have a splurge, And so there are times where you make choices that you're going to eat foods that you ordinarily would not eat. So that's a splurge. Either way, sometimes, whether it's a slip or a splurge, your brain is going to respond to that. And the old pathways will start they'll start winding up again. And then you can just notice, oh my God, I'm craving this, I'm craving that. So the first thing to do is just remember, we are all going to slip. Everybody, every single person, no matter how perfect you are going to slip. So the first thing that you want to do is to really pull out your tools of self-compassion.
Yeah, don't beat yourself up. That's the most important part of it.
That's the thinking piece of it. It's like so many people, oh no, I screwed up on vacation. I'm having a hard time getting back on track. I'm a horrible person. I was bad. I was wrong. No, you weren't bad and wrong. You were a normal human being. You tell yourself you're bad and wrong, it just makes everything 10 times worse. So you got to give up all of that beating yourself up stuff. And by the way, it's all in the past. And do you know how much control you have over what's happened in the past? None.
Exactly.
You have no power over anything that's ever happened in the past. And so there's nothing to do about that. You do have power over what's happening right now, and you can plan for the future, but you have no control over anything that's ever happened in the past. And so don't even think that you do, and don't beat yourself up about it. So you just kind of ask yourself, what emotion am I feeling right now? So what would you say your emotion was when you got back and you realized, oh my gosh, I'm having all these crazy cravings and this is really hard to get back on track? What was the emotion you were feeling, Marshall?
The emotion I was feeling, so I guess I was feeling frustrated because so you and I had talked about this earlier. What one of my issues is I've been waiting, for my brain to just click back on and be motivated again and want to, get right back on track and, eat the right foods and start feeling good again and not just with food. I mean, even to reincorporate back into the workforce because, that was another thing. I just wasn't even motivated to do that. And that might have had to do with feeling sluggish and, just kind of trying to work out these toxins and salt and all that kind of stuff out of my body. So, my biggest issue has been just sort of just disappointment. But I mean, I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah. Well, I felt that feeling before, I'm so disappointed in myself, because I thought I should have done better, that kind of thing. Especially if this is something that you teach other people, you really should do better at this, so it's oh, geez. So, but you were feeling sounds like you were feeling a little bit frustrated because you were wanting your brain to get back into gear and it wasn't cooperating with you.
Yeah. And I was disappointed because I talked a big talk before I left and wanted to, make all the right decisions and I'm not going to do this and I'm going to be more prepared. And, and I went in with all these great intentions. And then once I got there, I mean, like I said, it all started with that McDonald's at the airport. And then once I got there, all right, well, okay, I'll do better at when we get to the hotel. And then when I didn't, when I made these other decisions, then I automatically set myself up for when I got back, like remembering, like picking apart these things that I did and like, why did I do that when I said I wasn't going to do that?
Mhm.
And I could really easily get caught up in picking myself apart. But honestly, that does not do anybody any good. It's never
Mhm.
done me any good. It's never
Mhm.
like forced me to want to get back on track. All it does is just make me feel worse about myself. And it sort of prolongs getting back on track.
Yeah, it does. It does. So the self-judgment and the beating yourself up about it and all of that, it does. It makes it harder.
Right. But I
Yeah.
wouldn't weigh myself. That's the thing. Don't weigh
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
Do not weigh yourself because that you're going to automatically give yourself a reason to feel bad when Dr. Angela was saying is a lot of it's probably just water weight, and you'll give yourself a few
Mhm.
days and beef up your water intake, and you'll start flushing it out.
Yeah. Well, as you're thinking about being compassionate with yourself, you want to recognize, okay, figure out what is the emotion that you're feeling and name it. And then remind yourself that you're not alone in ever feeling this feeling. Like lots of times we have these negative emotions and we think nobody else in the world ever feels negative emotion. That is not true. Like everybody feels the gamut of human emotion. So there's
Yeah.
absolutely nothing wrong with you. Even if you're feeling ashamed, there's nothing wrong with you. Nothing's gone wrong. That's a normal human emotion. So you want to just acknowledge that I'm feeling whatever it is I'm feeling. That's a normal human emotion. Nothing's going wrong here. Everything
Yeah.
is fine. And then you treat yourself with like the utmost of kindness and compassion in the same way that you would treat your own best friend. And those are the steps of self compassion. And this is based on work by Kristen Neff. For those of you who are interested in learning more, she has a whole program on self compassion and it is amazing. So compassion, compassion, compassion for yourself. And then, the other thing is like you were saying, I was just waiting for my brain to want to get back into gear. And what you told me was that you wanted to feel just as enthusiastic about all of this as you had in the very beginning. You want to
Yeah.
talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, because in the beginning when I first did this, and I did the the flour detox and sugar detox, and I did the 5-day menu, and I was
Mhm.
really like it was new and exciting, and
Mhm.
I felt really motivated,
Mhm.
and I just went with it. And then, I went through kind of like the crappy detox part, but then after that, I had this energy and I was on fire. I mean, I was just
Yeah.
so gung ho, and
Yeah.
it just seemed like it didn't seem very hard. I mean, not hard in I mean, I guess hard isn't the word to use. I mean, it's hard, but it's a simple plan.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
I don't know. I just like had this motivation going. And then,
Yeah.
and I've even gone on vacation, because I've been doing this a while, and I've gone on vacation a couple times, and yeah, I had a couple slips or whatever. And I just got right back on track. That wasn't even
Mhm.
hard for me to do. But this time around, for some reason, I, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks is too much to be on vacation with, accountability. And one thing I forgot to do is right when I got back, I should have called my accountability buddy or got in touch with my community and,
Ah,
got some support from
yes.
like-minded people. And then,
Yes.
yeah. And then, not put so much pressure on myself to, go and buy all these groceries. And I was kind of overwhelmed with like going and buying all the groceries again and
Mhm.
doing that. I just didn't feel like I was kind of tired.
Mhm.
And I just, I don't know, I just was waiting for my brain to say, okay, I'm ready now, ready to get back
Mhm.
on track, let's get feeling good. And I just haven't, like, I haven't really, I don't know, I haven't really cared that much, I guess, or
Mhm.
not that I don't
Yeah.
care. Just didn't feel like, you
Yeah.
know, doing it
So you're
all.
like you're like working with your brain here, really. And that's why I
Yeah.
say it's so much more important to get your brain in order.
Yeah.
I think what was going on for you, there's a well-known psychology of pain motivation. When we're in pain, we're motivated to make ourselves feel better. And our primitive brain will go along with that. Anything that will relieve pain, our primitive brain's going to go along with it. And so if you're in pain because you're weighing 60 or 70 pounds more than you do now, and your clothes are tight and you're having a hard time moving and you're achy all the time and you're tired all the time and you just don't feel good about yourself, that's a lot of pain. And so that's a lot of motivation. Well, you don't have that now. Now
Yeah.
it's like I'm dealing with these crazy cravings, but, and I feel a little sluggish, but it's not the same kind of pain. It's just not. And
Yeah.
so,
And it's not the
so
same
if you,
kind of motivation. Yeah. When I
and you're
was
not going to
feeling,
have weight loss to motivate you, because even
yeah.
if you did put on a little bit of weight, it's not the weight's not the issue for you here. The issue
Mhm.
is that you're feeling out of control trying to get back on track after your vacation.
Yeah. I guess my
And
brain's
so,
just kind of saying like, why do it? You're okay where
what's the
you're
big
at.
deal?
You're
Hmm.
fine.
Yeah.
You can eat what you want and you're going to
Hmm.
be fine. Don't,
Hmm.
my brain always wants to do like the easiest thing.
Yeah, that's called a
And
normal brain. That's how we
yeah.
survived.
Yes.
Our
Yeah.
primal
No.
brain wants comfort. Our primal brain wants ease. Our primal brain wants pleasure. And our primal brain wants relief of pain. So it's that part of our brain. So here's a question. Do you have to be motivated in order to do something that you know is in your best interest? Do you have to
I
get a
think
rah
so.
rah feeling? I'm going to do this. Or can you just do it because you know it's in your best interest to feed your body nourishing food and get yourself back on track? Like, is it possible? So, in other words, is it possible to just do hard things even though they're hard because you know that it's in your best interest to stay committed long term? Is that a possibility? So, I'm not talking just to you, Marshall. I'm talking to anybody who's struggling. Like, just ask yourself that question. Can you do hard things? I think you can. I don't think you have to have crazy rah rah motivation to be able to get yourself back on track. You just have to have this vision of what the outcome is going to be. And the outcome is going to be you. Well, what is it that you want? Like, what outcome do you want from this?
To feel better.
Yeah. So feel better. What feel,
Well, I
just,
remember like when I was eating cleaner and,
mhm.
doing the things I was supposed to do, enough water, enough protein.
Yeah.
I just felt so much better. I mean, once I incorporated the alcohol and the carbs back into my body, I'm just, maybe that's something that's giving me not very much motivation too. It just makes
Mhm.
me sluggish. It makes me feel like crap. I'm headachy. I feel
Yeah.
bloated. I don't have
Yeah.
any energy really.
Yeah.
I just feel like crap. Like my hips started hurting at night again, when I would sleep.
Mm.
And that it hasn't happened to me for a long time. And
Yeah.
so I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure I have a lot of inflammation
Hmm.
and I don't like that feeling. I want to feel better. But something for me, my motivation when I first did this too, I was like 212 pounds and I really was unhappy with the way that I looked and felt in my clothes.
Hmm.
I was super self-conscious. I did not like the way I felt in my own skin. And
Yeah.
that was a huge motivation for me. Well, now, I've gotten to a weight where I feel really comfortable and
Hmm.
started at that weight when I went on vacation.
Hmm.
So yeah, and maybe I put on, like I said, I haven't gotten on the scale. Maybe I put on like 5 pounds, not super noticeable. I can see like, I can feel like bloating in my stomach and, and I don't like that, but I still feel pretty comfortable with the
Hmm.
way that I fit my clothes and the way that I look. So that's not a motivation for me this time. So I'm
Hmm.
trying to
Yeah.
figure out like how do I keep going with this?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to go the other way and wait until I go back up the scale 10 pounds and I have like that oh shit moment, like, oh my gosh, what happened? And then I better start over again. So
Yeah.
I want to be able to find, these ways of doing things for the right reasons, like you said, instead
Hmm.
of out of fear, I guess, or whatever else. So I
Yeah.
gotta I'm like
You don't want to wait until you gain enough weight back that you're in that kind of pain again, because
exactly,
that's why
exactly.
people struggle keeping the weight off, because they're in this comfortable position, and then they
Right.
get off track a little bit, but they don't catch it quickly
Yeah.
because the pain isn't severe enough to motivate them. So
Nope.
you have to find a way, and this is for all of you out there in Journey Beyond, in Sugar and Flour Buster Society, and in Keep the Weight Off podcast land, all of you out there who are thinking about maintaining your weight loss long term, you're going to have these periods of time where you're off track, you're off track, but you're not in as much pain as you need to be to get the rah-rah motivation to go on a weight loss diet. You have to find another motivation. And so my recommendation would be to write down, like, what am I committed to long term? Am I committed to the identity of a vibrant, healthy person? Am I committed to knowing that I am nourishing my body with good quality, healthy food? Am I committed to that, to knowing that I'm doing what I know I need to do to not feel bloated and foggy and crappy and tired all the time, even if I'm not gaining any weight, you know?
Yeah.
So you want to write all of that stuff down. The more you write it down, get it out of your head and onto a piece of paper, the more your brain's going to remember it. And then you want to remind yourself that you actually can do hard things. Like, you can do hard things. Like, life isn't always pleasant, and you can do hard things. And reminding yourself why it is that you're going to do something hard. So, you have a craving or an urge, and you're like, okay, no, I'm not going to, call DoorDash or whatever, or run to the taco stand, even though I have a craving, because I'm committed to the long-term outcome. And I'm willing to actually sit here and feel that unease. I'm willing to feel that sort of anxious, restless feeling. Because the interesting thing is, and I want to talk a little bit about how our brains handle this. If you have an urge for something and then you go satisfy it, it's like, if you remember the story of Pavlov, who's a researcher, and he trained his dogs to salivate at the sound of a bell. And so what he would do is he would ring the bell, and then he would bring food. And after a while, the dogs associated the bell ringing with the food coming. And so he didn't even have to bring the food. They would just start salivating because they were expecting the food to come.
Mm.
And then, so that's how our brains work. Like, if we have an urge for something and then we go ahead and satisfy that urge, our brains are going to expect that every time we have that urge, it's going to get satisfied. Well, you can actually reprogram your brain. You can reprogram your brain so that if you have an urge, it will be extinguished if it doesn't get satisfied. But you have to kind of sit there through that anxiety of not having that urge satisfied. So that's the hard part. So sitting there and feeling that craving and feeling that urge, and you just go into your body and you say, what am I feeling here? Like, what is this? And the interesting thing is, if you just accept that you're having a negative feeling right now, and you don't try to fight it, it will pass right through you. It will go right through you. And then, it'll come up again later. And then if you don't satisfy that urge again, then what you're doing is you're retraining your brain to not expect satisfaction of that urge every time. And then the urge just dissipates, right? So,
Yeah.
so that's how you do it. You just allow yourself to have these urges for this stuff, and remember what your long-term vision is, a long-term vision for health and for a feeling of empowerment. And, if you sit there through a few of those urges and you don't satisfy it, that's a pretty empowering feeling, and, and sooner or later you have an urge for taco truck and you're like, forget it. I don't care. It just doesn't, it's like fleeting. It just doesn't have the same power anymore because that brain pathway is so much less.
Yeah, it
Cool,
is
huh?
hard to maintain weight loss for a long period of time because this is so different for me this time around, because before my
Mm-hmm.
motivation was always, I want to get skinny.
Mm-hmm.
And and now, I don't know, and I'm just familiar with, that kind of,
Yeah.
like that kind of struggle, with being
Yeah.
either being overweight or, being skinny. And so this time
Mm-hmm.
around is so different for me because I don't really have a reason except for health, which
Mm-hmm.
is which has never really been the reason I wanted to lose weight before. So this is
Yeah.
like to maintain it even longer. this is just a whole different ballgame. And I will say this, I wouldn't know what to do. I mean, I would be one of these yo-yo, white knuckle it, hurry up and lose 30 pounds. And then once I got to where I wanted to be, then I'm like, oh, I'm off hook. Now I can, now I can go back to eating the way I want to for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've learned so many tools just being a part of the journey beyond weight loss, because we
Mm-hmm.
dive into so much more of, the mental part of this, which is
Yeah.
so important to do. It's not just eating differently.
Right.
It's just, there's such a
It's
mental
all
part of
about
it.
thinking differently too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just going to summarize kind of what we talked about. So the first thing, if you've returned from a vacation and you got off track on vacation, the first thing is don't weigh yourself and don't beat yourself up.
Right.
So remember your tools of self-compassion, be present to your emotions. So let yourself feel your emotions, name your emotions. Remember that you're a human being and that all human beings suffer. Reach out for connection with other human beings. Be very, very kind to yourself. So those are the tools of self-compassion. Really, really check your self-critical thoughts. If you have, most people who struggle with their weight, in my experience anyway, and me myself, like we really, we could get A plus plus plus, we could get a PhD in beating ourselves up, we
Mhm.
are just really good at it. And so be super careful to notice when you have these self-critical thoughts, and don't judge yourself for having self-critical thoughts. Just say, oh wait, I'm learning how to think about myself differently. And remember that you don't have any power over the past. You have no power over the past. You have power over the present moment, and you have power over your future. Okay. Um, don't expect to feel motivated all the time. Don't expect that. You're going to do this. You want to get yourself to a point where you're like, I'm going to do this even when it's hard, because I know I can. I can do this even when it's hard and I don't feel motivated. I made a promise to myself. I'm going to execute on my promise. I'm going to show myself that my word matters. So even though it's hard, you do it anyway. And I would just recommend making a list of why it is that you want to get back on track and referring to it often, just because, so that when you're feeling like all of that resistance from your brain, I don't want to remember, your primitive brain wants comfort and ease, and it's going to like throw up all these roadblocks and say, why bother? So
Mhm.
if you make a list from your prefrontal cortex, which is the executive part of your brain, the more advanced part of your brain, use that part of your brain and make a list of why it is that you want to get back on track. Then you can sort of override your primitive brain's desire for comfort in the moment, right? And if you are working at urges and you're trying to extinguish an urge, in other words, you have urges for alcohol or you have urges for sugar or urges for the taco truck or whatever it might be, allow yourself to feel anxious. If you are trying to get rid of that urge and what you're doing is you're allowing yourself to have that urge, remind your brain that you are going to survive a little anxiety. It's not going to kill you, okay? And just breathe through it, and try not to substitute something else in place of that urge. Try not to go find, some sort of sugar substitute or something, because you're not going to extinguish the urge that way. You want to get rid of this urge. So you want to make it much, much less. And then the last thing, we didn't really talk about it all that much, but many people listening to the Keep the Weight Off podcast might well be working with obesity medicine specialists and using weight loss medications, which can be very, very beneficial. And if you have been prescribed weight loss medications, make sure that you're consistent with taking them, not only on your vacation, but when you get back from your vacation. We've had lots of stories of people who they forgot their medications when they went on vacation, and they got, they had a really hard time on vacation. They're wondering if it's okay to get restarted and all of this stuff. So if you've been prescribed weight loss medications, make sure to use them consistently as you're getting back on track. That will be really, really helpful for you, because it just sort of, it rebalances the biochemistry of the brain for you. So, do you have anything else to add, Marshall?
No, not that I can think of. I mean, I'm just learning all this myself. So
Yeah,
some of the things that
it's a
you just said made a lot of sense, and I'm going to try them.
there you go.
I think that the tracking is
Mhm,
a huge thing for me, and also
mhm.
writing down why I want to do this.
Yeah, just put it in a note in your smartphone. Most of us have smartphone apps with little note-taking capacity in them. You
Yeah,
can just type it all in there and then just pull it out and read it when you have an urge.
that's
"Oh,
a great
yeah,
idea.
that's right.
Yep,
If I don't resist this urge or allow this urge, I'm gonna end up feeling sick again, you know?" So,
right,
it's a big price to pay. It really is. So
right.
okay. Well, that's all for this week. We will see you all again next week, and I hope everybody has a great week. Talk to y'all later.
All right,
Bye.
bye everybody.
Hey, if you really want to lose weight and keep it off for good, your next step is to sign up for Dr. Angela's free weight loss course, where you're going to learn everything you need to get started on your weight loss journey the right way. Just head over to journeybeyondweightloss.com/free course to sign up. Also, it would be awesome if you could take a few moments and write a review on iTunes. Thanks, and we'll see you in Journey Beyond Weight Loss.